Stand by. Information to follow.
We live in a massive universe. I know that's an understatement, to say the least. But amidst the countless twinkling stars and billions of distant galaxies, there are mysteries that have caught our imagination for a long time, centuries even. Mysteries that have manifested in countless whispered accounts, grainy photographs, and blurry videos. Of course, I'm talking about UFOs, or rather UAPs as they're now referred to. Welcome to Saturday Morning Seance. Let's ramble on through these phenomena.
UFOs are in the air. If I'm here in the studio, something's going on.
Recently, this mystery has surged onto the forefront of the public consciousness once more, with a deluge of new sightings, declassified government documents, and tantalising footage emerging from who knows where. The concept of UFOs has permeated pop culture to such a degree that it's reached a state of saturation, becoming a ubiquitous element in media, literature, and entertainment. As we delve into this trove of evidence, you can't help but sense a palpable shift in the air. A feeling that something profound is stirring, like we're standing on the precipice of an encounter beyond our wildest dreams or darkest fears. There's something happening here, something that beckons us to question our place in the cosmos and ponder the mysteries that lie beyond the confines of our known world. And as the world grapples with the influx of UFO sightings and the release of previously classified information, protesters, ordinary individuals driven by an extraordinary conviction that the truth must be unveiled, gather in the streets, their signs bearing bold slogans demanding disclosure and transparency from those in power. What follows is a compilation of just a few of my favourite examples, including some vintage gems like the eccentric Project Starlight and the famous sighting by Jessie Roestenberg. And if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe.
We are ready to transmit. We are ready to transmit.
25th of February 1942, 2 AM in the early hours along the Pacific coast of the USA. The towns and cities were plunged into darkness, sirens blared, and people awoke to the sound of artillery. A giant craft had been spotted on military radar 150 miles off the coast. The cones of searchlights scanned the sky for sight of, well, something. After declaring war on Japan after the Pearl Harbor attack, Americans were in a heightened state of military vigilance and ready for any outsider threat. The searchlights zeroed in on a target over Santa Monica, and over 1,500 rounds of artillery fire were let loose. The target, a massive unidentified craft. The rounds bounced off the craft with no effect. This photograph, which is a copy of the original, is the only visual record of the event. Was it a UFO or just itchy trigger fingers under extreme anxiety? Have you ever heard of the Vrillon Incident that happened in 1977? No? Well, strap in, because it's a belter. It's like something off the TV. Well, it is off, you know what I mean. Picture this, you've just had your tea and you're settling down to watch a bit of the news, and suddenly this.
This is the voice of Vrillon, representative of the Ashtar Galactic, speaking to you. For many years you have seen us as lights in the sky.
It went on like that for the next 5 minutes or so. The interruption ended with a Daffy Duck cartoon.
And there just ain't room enough on this planet for the
Though it's thought of as a hoax, no one has ever been collared for it.
Trying to trap a UFO is now big business. In the scrubland of Texas, Ray Stanford heads Project Starlight International with $1 million worth of equipment. The laser is to signal to spaceships his goggles in case they answer back. The aim is to use the highest technology to establish beyond doubt that craft from other times or worlds are visiting the Earth. Centerpiece of Project Starlight's armory is a computer to monitor UFO activities in the area.
When this line doesn't begin to show up, oh well.
This is an Operation Argus alert. Please proceed as you've been instructed.
The computer automatically calls up spotters to scan the skies. And it really hits the panic button if a landing is indicated. With techniques like these, Stanford hopes to add to the evidence he's already amassed. Like this film he shot at Corpus Christi in Texas in 1959.
After extensive endeavor to explain it, neither the Air Force nor the National Investigation Committee on Aerial Phenomena could come up with any ordinary explanation. I don't know what it was, but it was tubular and bright, and small objects came and departed at high speed. We have motion picture films, magnetometer recordings, sound recordings, and a whole variety of data that begin to make us think that UFOs are technological, that they're really not something natural after all, but something not only technological, but highly sophisticated and capable of speeds and accelerations far beyond anything that we've ever dreamed of. In fact, we've really been surprised at how fast these things can move that we've tracked. And frankly, I would say that they simply don't originate on the Earth, at least any place on the Earth that I know of. If the Soviet Union has that kind of technology, so God help the free world. And if the free world has it, God help the Soviets.
UFOs turn up in world history quite frequently. Most are glossed over and put down to misinterpretation, overactive imaginations, or just plain lies, citing a lack of a reliable witness or something. Well, how about Christopher Columbus as a credible witness? On October the 11th, 1492, during his first voyage to the Americas, Christopher Columbus and his crew spotted strange lights in the sky. He wrote in his log that he saw lights far off in the distance as he stood on the quarterdeck of the Santa Maria with Pedro Gutierrez. It was a particular kind of sighting involving a craft that emerged from the ocean, which has also been seen in the news more recently. It took a dark turn though, as Gutierrez grassed him up, so Columbus was debriefed by the Spanish Inquisition on his return and the records stashed in the Vatican. Is this an early version of a cover-up? 1973. Rock'em sock'em robots, flared trousers, and this genius was topping the charts. But down in Mississippi, real starmen were at large. Charles Hickson and Calvin Parker were fishing on the Pascagoula River. Looking up from the water, they saw a huge glowing blue UFO. They sat paralysed as three metallic-looking creatures drifted out of the UFO and carried them up to the craft. They then claimed to have been examined by a large, disembodied eye, then blacked out. They both came around back on the shoreline. Terrified, they called the cops. They were then interviewed separately. The police chief, Glyn Ryder, said their stories were identical and that nobody could fake fear like they had shown. Both men took a polygraph. They both passed. This event has gone down in the annals of UFO history. Here's one for the X-Files fans. Billy Meyer is surrounded in both intrigue and whimsy, with narratives of close encounters and conversations with beings from far-flung galaxies. Emerging onto the UFO scene with a collection of insane yet intriguing images, he seemed to have an uncanny knack for capturing ET on film. His photos ignited a cosmic circus of speculation. Some hailed him as a pioneer of ufology, while others dismissed them as horse shit. Some of his most notable exploits revolve around his interactions with an alien named Sem Jace, his guide in cosmic wisdom. Yet amidst the laughter and cosmic conspiracies, you can't deny the infectious joy that Meyer's pictures bring to the table. A whimsical reminder that in this universe, the unexpected and the mysteriously daft are ever present, inviting us to frog in the delightful dance of possibilities that exist beyond our terrestrial drudgery. Ezekiel, an Old Testament prophet. Few enigmas capture the imagination quite like the biblical account of his mystical vision. The description of this celestial event in the Bible involves a bizarre flying object. Quote, "The appearance of the wheels and their workmanship was like sparkling beryl, and all four of them had the same form, their appearance and workmanship being as if one wheel were within another. Through a modern lens, it's easy to see how it could be interpreted as the prophet's words or a first-hand encounter with advanced technology. Of course, not everyone agrees with this idea. Some people think that Ezekiel's vision was more of a symbolic or metaphorical experience, a way for Ezekiel to describe a spiritual or divine message he received. Was this an ancient description of a UFO flap? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, but let's face it, they rarely say no.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Hola y saludos a todos.
各位都好吧，我们都很想念你们，有空请到这儿来玩。
In 1561, the skies over Nuremberg, Germany, became the stage for a bizarre spectacle as witnesses reported a swarm of frightful, unidentified flying objects engaged in an otherworldly aerial battle. Described in a contemporary broadsheet newspaper, the event featured an array of shapes, including spheres, cylinders and crosses locked in what appeared to be combat formations. Despite centuries of debate and speculation, the Nuremberg UFO incident remains one of history's enduring mysteries. Skeptics are drawn to it as a curious case study in mass hysteria and misinterpretation, highlighting the tendency to perceive the unfamiliar through a lens of existing beliefs or cultural context. For believers, though, the incident represents documentation and proof of a close encounter. Well, friends, have you heard of the strange happenings with cows and horses out there? It's not reported as much these days, but it's been going on for quite a long time. Some people say it's the work of aliens, of course. Others say it's the government and their secret experiments. And then there's those who swear it's the doings of cults and their devilish rituals. The first well-documented case involved a horse named Snippy back in '67. They found her dead and mutilated in Colorado with her flesh stripped from the neck and the head, leaving only bones and a few shreds of tissue. No conclusive explanation was ever found. However, like Huckleberry Finn used to say, truth is stranger than fiction. But it's because fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities. Truth isn't.
Well, I got a couple of thousand goddamn questions, you know? I want to speak to someone in charge.
Have you ever wondered about the secrets of levitation and UFOs? Well, in the vast cosmos, there might be technologies beyond our wildest dreams. Imagine an advanced civilization harnessing the power of quantum locking, a mind-bending phenomenon that we're just beginning to understand. Scientists are exploring quantum locking using superconductors. When cooled to ultra-low temperatures, these materials defy gravity by locking onto magnetic fields. It's like magic. The superconductor floats effortlessly above the magnet, held in place by trapped magnetic flux. Now let's dream big. Picture a civilization far more advanced than ours. They could scale up this technology to create massive UFOs that glide through the skies, just like our tiny levitating superconductor in the lab. This is all speculative, of course, but it's a reminder that our universe is full of surprises. Till then, let's keep pushing the boundaries.
One such encounter happened to Mrs. Jessie Roestenberg, then living in this Staffordshire farmhouse.
It was on an October day, the 25th of October in 1954. I was in the back kitchen of the house preparing myself, just having washed, and I heard this noise. Now, it was just like a giant cauldron of water being poured onto a red-hot fire, but if you can imagine, 1,000 times louder. And my first reaction was the children. I must get out, there's a plane crashing. So I slipped on my jumper, I ran out through the side entrance of the house towards the front garden to look for them coming across the fields. And to my amazement, there, suspended on the top of the roof of this old farm, was this object that I can only describe as a huge Mexican hat. It was that shape without the bubbles. It must have been 15 to 20 yards from where I stood. It covered the roof, so in circumference it must have been about 60 feet. It was enormous. The people in the spacecraft were just looking out. I could see them from the waist to the top of their heads. They were very beautiful people. They had long golden hair, like the old kings used to wear, turned under. They had a very vivid blue, like ski top affair on, and they just looked at us. Their eyes, the expression in their eyes were full of compassion. And then, all of a sudden, I felt the tension leaving me, and I felt movement, and I turned round to touch my children, and when I looked again, it was gone. Now, we stood there, and I said to the boys, "Did you see what I seen?" "Yes, Mummy, yes." I said, "Well, where is it? It's gone." And we looked, and my second son said, "There it is, Mum." And we watched it in the sky, just like a cotton reel, circle round the farm 3 times, and then it just shot straight up and away.
May 1974. The Betz family were taking a walk on their property and found an odd metal sphere the size of a basketball. They thought it was a piece of space debris and kept it on a shelf as a cool object. Some weeks later, Terry Betz was playing his guitar and the sphere started to show weird behaviour. It started to hum and move of its own accord, to the point where it would follow people around the house. Both military and NASA scientists examined it and could not identify why it behaved so strangely. They detected shifting magnetic poles and that it gave off radio waves. It was then examined by Alan Hynek of Project Blue Book fame. When it was returned to the Betz family, it no longer showed any odd behaviour. Did Hynek pull the old switcheroo? The current whereabouts of the sphere is unknown. In eastern Russia in 1991, a geological expedition went to the Ural Mountains in search for gold. As they dug, they found something else. At a depth of 30 feet in an area 10 kilometers wide, they discovered a scattering of metal coils, springs and tubes. Most were microscopic. The Russian Academy of Sciences in St. Petersburg analysed them and concluded they were made of rare metals like tungsten and that they were manufactured. Here's the puzzle. At that depth, the Earth hadn't been touched for tens of thousands of years. So, is it lost ancient technology or a debris field from a crashed UFO? Boom. Mind blown. This is the Annunciation from 1486, a painting by Carlo Crivelli depicting the Virgin's encounter with Archangel Gabriel. A very unusual image of an angel indeed. Compare it to modern descriptions of close encounters like Travis Walton's. Maybe it really is what it looks like, a UFO painted into the skies of Renaissance art. We all know the story. Something crashed in the New Mexico desert in 1947. Ever since, people have scoured the region around Roswell looking for fragments of evidence of what many think was a UFO. In 2004, a fella named Robert Ridge was doing exactly this when he found a strange object half buried in the dirt, the so-called Roswell Rock. Is it an artifact from outer space or just a hippie trinket? Under examination, it shows no signs of how it was made, no tool marks. It's magnetic, but X-rays show no magnet buried inside it. Its mineral content is unknown and it has a strange design on it, and more strangely, the same exact design occurred in a crop circle 6,000 miles away in Wiltshire, England, 6 years earlier in 1996. Were they connected in some way? Are aliens leaving clues, or is it some ridiculously elaborate hoax?
Over here, up there, I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left and then down the river. It wasn't a helicopter, it wasn't a balloon, and it was so near.
And it looked what, sort of round, white, luminescent, and silent?
Silent, and it looked dark, like black or grey in the middle, and had white lights, just looked like light bulbs, you know? Just going off, on, off, on, off, on, blink, 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 round the bottom, and on top was a red light.
As a child, I used to love story time and listening to programs like Jack and Ori. It's a great way to learn and wonderful entertainment, but nothing could have fired my imagination more than the Dreamtime stories by the wisdom keepers of Aboriginal Australia. Anthropologists agree that they are the oldest continuous culture on Earth, estimated at 60,000 years. And with no official written language, they pass their histories and secret knowledge down through the centuries with their story time and rock art, which are all tied in with the stars and the beings that came from them. In the northwest Kimberley region are caves with magnificent renderings of the Wanjina visitors from the stars who created the rivers and mountains, fought amongst themselves and left. Depicted with large heads and big eyes, they eerily predate the modern idea of the great aliens popular in modern science fiction. Are we alone in the universe? Nobody can definitively say, but it would change everything if there was proof, affecting everything: religion, politics, philosophy, and we'd have to question our place and actions in this universe. Here's the thing, it's possibly happened already. Back in August 1977, from a bunch of pages that looked like matrix code provided by a radio telescope called Big Ear, research scientist Jerry Eman found something. A signal so strong he wrote "wow" in the margin. 30 times stronger than background noise coming from the constellation Sagittarius. The problem is, we've been trying to find this signal again for over 40 years and we've got nothing. Zilch. Nada. The Dogon Tribe, Mali, Africa. It's less than 100 years since the world became aware of these mysterious people, whose culture dates back thousands of years. In their creation stories, they tell of the Nomo, amphibious creatures who arrive from the sky, accompanied by fire and thunder. The Nomo became their teachers, but here's where the story gets weird. The Dogon people claim that the Nomo came from a star which cannot be seen from Earth. We call it Sirius B in the Sirius binary star system. This star was only discovered in 1862. They depict it in their artwork, and its position is astronomically correct. They also knew the configuration of our solar system, the 8 planets, the rings of Saturn, the moons of Jupiter, and complex sacred geometry, thousands of years before the modern era of physics, astronomy, and telescopes.
Possible, quite the contrary. I think that many of the stars in the sky have planetary systems. We know enough now about the origin of life to make it appear likely that life arises naturally on the vast bulk of these planets. It's possible, but by no means certain, that life on many of these planets evolves into beings which are as advanced as we, or more advanced. And I don't see any reason why we can't imagine that there are civilizations thousands or millions of years in advance of ourselves capable of technical feats that we can hardly imagine.
Personally, I'm convinced that there must be many, many higher civilizations in this enormous and incredibly ancient universe of ours. And since we are preparing to go out into space ourselves, other older races may have been doing this for millions of years. So it's quite reasonable to think that they may have come here in the remote past, perhaps many times, as indeed suggested in 2001. So we should look for evidence of such visits. Physical evidence in the form, for example, of fossilized transistor radios or their equivalent. But the question is, are they still coming now? Well, at this moment, we have radar networks, American, Russian, and there's others, plotting, tracking everything in space. Anything as big as a pencil in orbit around the Earth can be tracked by these radars. Is it conceivable that we've been having visitors over the last decades trying to sneak up on us, landing in obscure places, being seen by a few people, and not by these enormous tracking networks? I feel that when there really is a visitation from space, it'll be something spectacular, rather like the climax of the movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. We'll be certain of it within about 5 minutes. You may wonder, what should you do if you do meet a visitor from space? Well, be very polite and be prepared for a long journey.
If you've made it this far, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to all our subscribers for their unwavering support in helping us reach the milestone of 1,500 subscribers. While we may not be the biggest channel, each and every subscriber means the world to us. Your support, whether through watching, commenting or sharing our content, fuels our passion and drives us forward. Every subscriber, no matter the number, is cherished and appreciated immensely. So thank you. Time for a little celebration, I think.
Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. Do the shake and back and put the freshness back. When your carpet smells fresh, your room does too. Every time you